Nothing overheated, and I wasn't touching 8K. I'm not gonna mess with 8K. I don't give a shit about 8K, honestly. Yeah, I just thought I'd bring you guys out to the creek out here. It's a little hazy. There's a forest fire maybe about 10 miles into the mountain. We should be safe over here. Figure this would be an amazing spot to test out the R5 and the different codecs and everything. So I think Sedona's ready to go. I hope y'all can hear me. It's pretty loud out here. I didn't really think this through, but I've already messed up twice. So one, I ordered the EF 24-72 or 3, whatever version it was, the latest version. And that won't be here until tomorrow. Got a bunch of deadlines that I need to wrap up. This morning was the only time I had to really do any of this. And then the second fuck-up I did was I didn't bring any NDs or variable NDs or anything, so I didn't really think that through. It'd probably be better if I use higher frame rates anyway, so we can see what the IPB and the all-I compressions differ in with getting clarity and sharpness and textures and all that. But yeah, let's see how this turns out. All right, y'all, let me just explain the setup real quick. So I have 2 scenes here. In each scene, the first pair is going to be our 4K HQ. The second pair will be standard 4K, and the third pair will be the standard 4K sharpened. So the 4K HQ is the full 8K censored super sample down into a 4K readout. The standard 4K is like some kind of pixel bending, line skipping thing. No one really knows yet, but it's definitely is softer, but we'll see that right here. Also, the H.265 camera on this camera runs very choppy on my computer. Usually H.265 runs like butter because I have a 2020 16-inch MacBook Pro, and H.265 runs fine on it, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's because I'm mixing codecs in one timeline or what, but I guess that will be testing we'll have to do down the road. But yeah, so I did have to render out these things, and my computer renders pretty fast, so it wasn't like that big of a deal. And let me just show you the color grading setup. So I have some highlight recovery, some hue adjustments, and then FilmConvert and a couple more little adjustments. I'll show you what it looks like out of camera. I shot in C-Log, so you can see it's the flat, and then that's with just my little color correction using FilmConvert. So let's just play through this. So this is all-I 4K HQ. All right. This is the IPB 4K HQ. This is standard all-I 4K. And this is the IPB 4K. All right. So you see zoomed out. There's not, I wouldn't say there's a huge difference. You could kind of see that there's a little bit more clarity in the super sampled one. But I mean, by the time you get this onto YouTube and everything, I don't think most people will see a huge difference. I know personally for me, I'm doing all this testing based off my work needs, and most of the stuff I shoot is pretty fast paced. And so having more sharpness and clarity kind of gets lost anyways with all like the motion I'm capturing. But let's just zoom into this. Let's zoom in. Let's be kind of accurate with it. Let's do 200%. So you see again, this is the all-I 4K HQ, and this is the standard 4K. So you see it is a little bit, tiny bit more softer. You like, let's look at this part right here, this little strand right here. So again, that's the 4K HQ. And then this is the standard 4K. So it's just a tiny bit more softer. Now, let's go back to the 4K HQ. Now let's go to our sharpened version of the standard 4K. So again, pay attention to this strand right here. So you see, yeah, there is some banding in there. There's some like, or not banding, there's some sharpening artifacts going on in there. But now let's look at the standard 4K again. So you see, once when you sharpen it, it kind of looks exactly like the super sampled. So again, here's the super sampled. Here's the regular 4K sharpened. So for me, the whole super sampled 4K thing is not a big deal. This is unrealistic to be zooming in like this. And yeah, I don't know. Again, when you're capturing actual footage, you're capturing motion and everything, and no one really gives a shit how sharp your footage is. A lot of this 8K footage I'm seeing coming out, I actually don't like because it's too sharp and it looks unrealistic. It's making human beings look like video game characters in my opinion. So, but let's just play this through a little bit. So that's the 4K super sample, standard 4K. See, it's a tiny bit more softer. And again, we're zoomed in 200%. And then here's the sharpened version. So I already can tell people are going to be in the comments saying, oh, that looks horrible. The sharpening looks horrible. Yeah. Show me what you're shooting. Show me if it really matters. So here's the super sampled again, standard, definitely softer, and then sharpened. And then now let's go, let's fit it to there. Super sampled, regular 4K, and then sharpened. I'm pretty much digging this standard 4K just with some sharpening on it. I don't know, guys. You guys tell me. If you're someone who's punching in 300%, then yeah, shoot super sample there, or just shoot the full 8K. But I'd rather switch out a lens and get natural compression and framing it up that way to where I don't have to punch in. Again, that's just for my workflow. All this testing I'm doing is going to be for my own workflow. If you don't agree with it, or if this doesn't pertain to you, I'm sorry. I just figured I would share whatever results I'm getting. But you see, I'm just bouncing back and forth between it all. And yeah, let's go to the next scene. So let's focus in on this over here. Let's punch in 200% again. Let's just go through this. So that's the Super Standard 4K, regular 4K, get ready for this. The sharpened regular 4K. Okay, you can definitely tell it's sharpened, right? So that's regular, sharpened. Regular, sharpened. Pay attention to this rock up here. Regular, sharpened. Now let's look at super sampled. It's not looking that much different to me, honestly. Again, I do have it a little harsh. Let's just turn it down a little bit. Let's put it to 47. And now let's look at it again. So this is the regular 4K, and then this is it sharpened. So you see it's looking a lot more natural. I just took it down to 47, the sharpening, and we're getting way less artifacting now. Let's look at the super sampled. I'm not seeing a big difference, y'all. Yeah, there is a difference, but to me, this is like micro differences to the point where it does not matter. So good news, if you want to shoot 4K on the Canon R5 with no overheating and you're shooting 24 or 30 frames per second, you can use the regular 4K and just put some sharpening on it, and all of a sudden you got super sample looking 4K. So this was something I was super curious about. I wasn't sure how it was going to come out, but I'm pretty happy with the results. So you could punch in pretty hard on regular 4K and just add some sharpening, and it's still going to look fine. So I think it just depends on what your usage is. But again, you give me a regular 4K and I'll throw some sharpening on it and I'll punch in as much as I need. No one cares if the shot gets soft. They care if the shot's badass or not, honestly. I'm comfortable and confident in using the standard 4K and just putting some sharpening. Now, I will be doing another video comparing the all-eye versus the IPB. Just a little heads up. You really don't see a huge difference between the two, but when you punch in a lot, you could definitely tell. Again, no one's punching in this much. Let's go back to our favorite little strand right here. So this is 4K HQ, this is all eye, and this is IPB. All eye, IPB. There's a tiny bit of difference where the IPB looks a tiny bit more pixelated. Like you could barely tell. Like you could kind of pick out the strand a little bit more in the all eye than IPB. It just looks a little bit more smoothed out. But again, we're punching in almost 400%. Let's do fit. You can't see a difference at all. So I need to test if IPB runs fine on my computer. Again, I have almost a spec'd out new 6-inch MacBook Pro. So if IPB can run smooth on it, I would run that. If all I runs smoother, then I'll probably just run that. And I'm going to run standard 4K because again, with the sharpening on it, it's not a huge difference to me. Again, regular 4K, sharpened 4K. So zoomed out, you could definitely see a difference between the two. All right, y'all. So there's a couple of things I learned. As you saw, I didn't know the HQ 4K mode was a whole separate option. So after I turned that on, there's no 60 frames per second in that mode. Pretty much all like the actual video work that I shoot, I'm shooting at 48 frames per second. Obviously 48 frames per second isn't usually a mirrorless camera option. And the reason I like shooting 48 frames per second is when you are trying to play back at full speed, when you're not conforming it down to 24p, it looks more natural. 60 frames per second just has that fast-paced like action motion to it. So, but with mirrorless, I would still shoot 60 frames per second, just so I have the option to slow down in post, and you don't have that in the 4K HQ mode. So, but my cinema camera is the Zcam E2S6, and it's a 6K sensor that's super sampled. So that's probably gonna look better than the standard 4K on the R5. But Again, if you could sharpen it and get it kind of close, it's gonna be just fine. I mean, the regular mode's just fine. I don't know. People are complaining about all this stuff and they're acting like they're about to go make some Hollywood films and that they need top quality gear, and so they buy a $3,000-$4,000 camera expecting the best out of it. So my Zcam E2S6, it's a dedicated video camera. I think that camera's only $2,400, and you have ProRes H.265 Kodaks that look almost just as good as the ProRes. You have Zcam RAW in there. So again, all these people complain about the video specs. If you want to freaking do video, get a cinema camera. That's the whole point of cinema cameras. Yeah, I'm gonna go eat, and we gotta go run some errands, and she's already all tired out, so yeah.